Taking this time to let our bodies and minds come together. Letting the pure sound arrive to the ears. Starting to pay attention to the senses in the body. Touching, tasting, hearing, smelling, seeing, and the mind door is how we perceive our entire world. And let us take a few moments to be appreciative, have gratitude. Gratitude for ourselves for being here. Appreciative to all the circumstances that came together, that we made these choices to support the practice of attending to training the heart and mind to be able to see clearly what arises. We can have gratitude to the Buddha, Sakyamuni Buddha, who was the most recent, 2,600 years ago, and the others before him, some who taught and some who did not teach, but all who discovered freedom. Freedom from attachment and clinging. And taught simple yet not easy practices. The teachings of the Four Noble Truths. The understanding that we know directly. Conditions come together, becoming occurs. We are born into human bodies, into what's called samsara. And we experience discomfort, difficulties, and suffering. That all these sentient living beings experience. And we can have gratitude for the Sangha, those monks, nuns, lay women, laymen, others in between, all of those beings that heard and understood and realized the Buddha's teachings and were able to put them into verse and repeat them often enough that they made it all the way through to our time. And so we can have great gratitude. We can have this gratitude to those who went before us, to the teachings, and to the illuminated ones who help us realize, give us the opportunity to know and understand that we too can reach freedom we can understand and see clearly freedom from our suffering. And we do it one breath at a time as we're sitting here in our seat. We can focus on a single object of the breath at the nostrils or at the belly. To just begin again, being in the present moment. Maybe we notice coolness or warmth. The breath might seem rough or smooth or long or short. And we can know that as it's occurring. Knowing if the breath is long or short on the inhale. And knowing if the breath is long or short on the exhale. Being relaxed. Letting a feeling of naturalness be there, ease. Holding ourselves kindly and gently. Wishing ourselves to be peaceful, have ease and well-being as we sit. Perhaps setting an intention of whatever might come to mind, being kind to ourselves or seeing as clearly as we can, or noticing when we're lost in a thought train and coming back to the breath. And so we're here and present, mindful awareness at the fore, attending to the breath as the single object of our attention, or attending to a touch point where the buttocks is on the cushion, or perhaps noticing the pressure of the eyelids or the lips, or where the arms are resting. We can choose any one of these touch points as a place to focus being present. Natural and easeful. We can gladden the mind and have a sense of joy when we see exactly what's happening in the moment. I like the quote from Joko Beck, the late Zen teacher, when she says, "Joy is exactly what is happening, minus our opinion of it." She made a distinction between joy and happiness, that happiness has an opposite, that of unhappiness. But joy is not happy or unhappy. It's not liking or disliking. It's accepting each moment for what it is, without contention. And so we belong to this moment, to any moment, simply by meeting it with joy. And as we remember and have appreciation for the enlightened ones who went before us and show us the opportunity to awaken, we can remember those teachings of the Four Noble Truths, the first truth about suffering. And we can notice that when things become uncomfortable, we might notice that we are trying to hang on to something, and we can't. At this moment, there's non-self, nothing to hang on to. That whatever we're attending to is arising and passing away. It has the nature of impermanence, of anicca. We have anicca, dukkha, and anatta. And that is seeing clearly. And we can see it moment to moment with mindfulness, being present with what arises. The simplest is the breath. Seeing that we can't hang on to it. It has its own set of conditions that are coming together. They're impermanent. They go apart. We might see the beginning or the end of something. Sometimes we're aware enough to follow all the way through the middle. But we can't hang on to it. There's no I, no me, no mine. we can see that these three characteristics are characteristics of anything that is conditioned, dependent on conditions coming together. Common to all of life. That there's constant change, that there's suffering and unsatisfactoriness, and that there's insubstantiality, non-self. And so we stay present with what's arising, what mindfulness is aware of. How awareness arises with whatever we're mindful of, stays for a certain length of time and then passes. And sensations arise in the body. We may notice heat or tingling. There may be aching or stabbing somewhere. There may be pleasant sensations, spacious sensations, tingling. We're just there and present with what arises. Know that it's impermanent by seeing this clearly and seeing it pass away over and over and over again. We are seeing this clearly. It might be one object of attention at a time. It could be allowing our attention to be only on the breath, developing some concentration. There are different ways of developing concentration. Sometimes you might start counting on the in-breath and the exhale. See if you can make your way to 10, and then just starting over. Without any pressure, you just go as far as you go until the mind wanders, or maybe sleepiness occurs, or agitation occurs in the mind or in the body. And then you start again. Sometimes mala beads are used. Sometimes staring at a candle flame is used. And sometimes the simplicity of the breath, because it is with us wherever we go. Or that touch point of gravity, where we've landed in our body and we can feel the whole body breathing, the container of our body, the container of our breath in this body. Letting the body be relaxed, flowing easily in and out. The breath arises and passes. Without any volition on our part. Our body is part of the world that's happening, natural. And the world is the part of our body, continuing. Nothing is really separate, no separate sense of self. As we're breathing in, aware of the diaphragm moving up and down, or the chest expanding and contracting. Exhaling, the air is rich with carbon dioxide, and inhaling, the air is rich with oxygen. We're feeding the green life in the world, the trees and the vines and the shrubs and the grasses. And they're releasing oxygen back into the environment and back into the green world and into our lungs. We're part of all of life. Easeful, natural. being present with the breath as it arises and passes. We may call on our toolbox from time to time when we find the mind wandering, just putting a soft, gentle note of thinking. Thinking occurs without judgment about it. Waking up in that moment to being present, not involved in the past and in the future, but just in the present. We may notice that it's pleasant or unpleasant right there where we wake up, where we gladden the mind. We have a wakeful moment. It's a gradual training. If something seems to be repetitive, something that comes up, and we have strong concentration, we can turn toward that suffering. And see what we notice for sure about it. What's reliable about it? Perhaps our clinging to it, or our noticing that it changes. We can look at our suffering directly. What is the cause, the clinging and the relaxing, with fear that might be surrounding it? There isn't any failure in awareness practice. There's no failure in acknowledging the truth of impermanence, the truth about suffering and non-self. We can also ask ourselves, what is the attitude of the mind right now? Am I aware? What am I aware of? This is a heartfelt practice. Mindfulness, the Pali word is sati, which means to hold something in awareness. The present moment. The Chinese characters are the present moment and the heart. Holding the present moment, a heartfelt practice. in the present moment. We're holding our experience in our hearts, having an accepting, soft, and spacious awareness toward whatever is occurring. Sometimes we see thought patterns dropping away, layers of judgment and resistance that can fall by the wayside that we let go of naturally. And we begin to not define ourselves through such hard-held identity, relaxing a little more around not knowing. And the natural goodness of the heart can shine. We're developing skillful mind states, skillful thoughts, these impulses to be aware and happy, joyous, compassionate. It all comes from the goodness of our hearts and holding ourselves kindly as we see whatever arises. Using just enough effort to find interest in what's happening as we develop confidence in the practice, noticing when we see things clearly. Developing concentration, mindfulness always present, balancing things. with wisdom arising. To know when things are unskillful and we can drop away a thinking process, and when something is skillful and beneficial, and we can incline the mind naturally toward the practice of generosity, being generous to ourselves, the practice of sila, harmonious living, and of bhavana, the meditation practice. It's a gradual process, and it's important that we remember the benefits of practicing generosity with ourselves as the first part of the practice. Generosity with ourselves and generosity toward others. And that enhances also the importance of harmonious living, remembering the precepts, allowing the mind to incline toward non-harming and speaking the truth, non-stealing, not engaging in sexual misconduct. And we can see how keeping these precepts alive in our lives is of benefit to us and benefit to others. It allows us to easily be of service. The act of generosity. And it starts around again. We can nurture this practice of generosity to ourselves, reminding ourselves if we notice that we're judging or finding some fault with our practice, to just begin again with the breath, begin where we are. Help ourselves stay connected and belonging to this very present moment. We can notice when we might be clinging to a habit in the mind, clinging to something that's pleasant that we want to see happen again, pushing away something that's unpleasant. We always have an opportunity of letting go, relinquish clinging. Keeping our practice heartfelt. And so we are engaged in this self-transformation through self-observation. And we're noticing deep interconnection between our mind and our body. And we can experience it directly by attending to physical sensations that form the life of our body, and noticing continuously conditions in the life of the mind, observation-based, self-exploratory journey. Slowly dissolving impurities in the mind and finding balance in a mind full of love and compassion. We have direct experience. We can see clearly into the nature of our own suffering and understand it. That arises and passes. We can notice how we grow sometimes or how we regress sometimes, and how one of those produces suffering or one frees ourselves from suffering with awareness. Non-clinging. The gradual training that takes self-control and can produce peace. Letting the mind rest easily with the present. We let our attention focus on the present. And as a result of this training, there's an open-hearted awareness of whatever is arising in the present moment. Feelings in the body, sounds, thoughts, emotions. Letting them come, letting them take their shape, and then dissolving and fading away. And in this every moment of arising and seeing things clearly, abiding with sight and sound and smell, taste, touch, thought, feeling, emotion. There's this ongoing flow of different dimensions of life. Within and around all of that change and experience. there's a quality of all-embracing awareness, a quality of knowing. That's attentive and attuned to what's going on, but not reactive to it. And we can hold ourselves here gently, kindly. Anchored in the body. Training the heart to continue to let go. Not get entangled and identified with all the qualities that keep arising in a habitual way. Our heart can become more at ease. This experience of seeing things arise and pass away. We can become more and more unrattled by the flow of the experience of daily life. We can become less reactive and more responsive to what's happening in the present moment. Holding ourselves in kindness and compassion. Letting this feeling in the heart and mind of embracing peace, considering a close friend or a benefactor, letting our heart space share with them to be free from harm, safe and protected, and have ease in their lives. Letting this feeling of well-being, genuine well-being for another, encompass ourselves. reestablishing in the present moment, letting this kindness and compassion that includes a friend or a benefactor and ourselves, allowing our hearts and minds to incline toward another, someone we don't know or we don't know very well. Letting the spaciousness of our hearts, of our container of our breath, our grounded body, include another person that we don't know. Could be something simple like the male person, or someone that you see walk by every day, the same place where you might be. Letting kindness fill our hearts and encompass these other beings. Wishing goodwill and ease, even when things are challenging, just as I have compassion for you going through challenging times. May you have compassion for yourself. This compassion is fueled by our kindness. Allowing this kindness and compassion to flow to others that we don't know. Wishing these beings to be safe and protected and have ease in their lives. Feeling this deeply for yourself. Sometimes placing your hand at your belly or your heart. Allowing yourself to be present. Letting this heart energy flow to groups of people that you don't know. It could be some in suffering, those who may be oppressed, could be those who are serving us in the grocery stores, or those healthcare providers constantly overworked. May we let this kindness and compassion flow and include in our heart space and reflect back upon us this kindness. That all beings, seen and unseen, known and unknown, those in joy and those in sorrow, may all beings everywhere know happiness and the causes of happiness. Be free from suffering and danger. May they know their true nature. And may the merits of our practice, the goodness of us coming together, the goodness of this practice, benefit all sentient beings. Anicca vata sankhara upadavaya domino upakitawa maruchanti te samvaposamo sukho. All conditioned things are subject to impermanence. They arise and pass away. Seeing this clearly with mindfulness brings the greatest happiness, which is peace. Thank you so much for your practice.